coalition has come out to reiterate that the planned peaceful protests for Wednesday, Thursday and Friday this week will go on as planned. A parliamentary group meeting chaired by Azimio leader Raila Odinga called on President William Ruto to recall the Finance Act and lower the cost of living in order to end the planned protests. And as Juliet Chepkoech now reports, the MPs also called on the international community to look into the excessive use of force by police during these demonstrations.
Government and the opposition blaming each other over last week's chaotic anti-government demonstrations, and with another round of protest expected this week, the opposition through the leader of minority Opiyo Wandayi now says the demonstrations will go ahead as planned, despite threats from the government, as it is their constitutional right to picket.
Protests will go on in line with Article 37 of our Constitution, which, as you all know, provides for freedom of peaceful assembly. Now, Kenya Kwanza claim that protesters are being paid. Now, for anyone to claim that those protesters who came out in hundreds and thousands in places like Emali, Busia, Kitale, Kilifi, Kakamega, Machakos, and Nairobi, among other places, were paid is to be extremely insincere.
While castigating Interior CS Kithure Kindiki over orders to the police to ruthlessly deal with the protesters, Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna took a dig at President William Ruto over plans to use hired gangs to attack peaceful demonstrators.
We have received intelligence that in fact senior police officers in the Kenyan Police Command have chosen to ignore the illegal directive that was given by CS Kindiki for police officers to shoot protesters. And that is the reason why the president convened a PG, because he knows the police will not do his dirty work. He has now told his own members of parliament to mobilize people in their constituencies to come and harm protesters.
Opiyo Wandayi took a sweep at the government over the hiring of teachers, while calling on President William Ruto to step aside for failing to implement his agenda as promised to Kenyans during the campaign period.
The government has hired some 55,000 teachers. Now, so what? Even the teachers are crying about the cost of living and high taxes and low salaries. Hiring teachers doesn't reduce the cost of living. Responsible leaders and regimes admit failure of their policies and quit in the interest of the nation. Don't ask us for solutions. Quit and pave way for a regime that has solutions.
Vihiga Senator Godfrey Osotsi also called for the United Nations to pay close attention to the excessive use of force by the police on demonstrators, while noting that the coalition is still following on the case filed at the International Criminal Court over the conduct of the police during anti-government demonstrations earlier this year.
The United Nations has pronounced itself on the situation in the country, especially on the issue of police brutality and the killings that went on during the demonstration. I want to state very clearly that the earlier petition by Azimio to ICC is very active, and we want to encourage the United Nations and ICC to note the events of this week.
Despite President William Ruto strongly condemning anti-government protest, the Azimio la Umoja leaders have now stated the demonstrations will go on as planned, while also calling out police officers for use of excessive force. Juliet Chepkoech, Look Up TV.